Hi, good morning. How is everybody? I hope you had nice weekend. So now back to study, and today I have selected a very important topic for you, and that is capital budgeting. So I'll briefly explain to you what is meant by capital budgeting. As you know very well that businessmen are always expanding their business, purchasing machinery and equipment, or diversifying. And all these actions need investment. So money has to be invested. But the businessman's concern is what are the returns on the money that they are going to invest in some project. So this is the topic and this is the content of capital budgeting topic. So let's proceed to the next slide. So the first thing to understand is that capital budgeting is closely linked to the concept of time value of money. And what is meant by time value of money is that money has a value at a particular time, and that value changes with the passage of time. For example, 100 uh, dirham could buy, say, 100 pencils today, but after 1 year, it may buy only 90 pencils. It's the same currency note of 100 dirham, but its purchasing power declined during a year's time. This is the concept of time value of money. And as it is given here as an example, that dirham 100 today is better than dirham 100 a year later. What is the reason? The reason is the purchasing power of dirham 100 is likely to decline a year later. So this is the concept of time value of money. So now, one thing that you have to bear in mind that investors who invest millions of dirham in projects are always concerned about the returns on that investment, and they also worry about the decline in purchasing power of money over time. So what happens is that if they make the investment today, the returns will accrue over a longer period of time, maybe 3 years, 5 years, 10 years. So as you can imagine that the purchasing power of money will decline over a 5 year period or a 10-year period. So that is the concern of the investors. So the investors want to find out what is the present value of future returns on investment. So there are two very important concepts that help the investors to identify the returns in terms of today's value of the money. And the first one is net present value, we abbreviate as NPV, and the second is internal rate of return, which is referred to as IRR. So now you have to appreciate that um, the concept of net present value is based on the premise that any investment has two values. The present value, that is the value of the money today, and the future value, that is the returns that accrue in future. And then the present net present value method converts future values into present values. That means all the returns year by year are converted into present values. How that is done? Well, actually, it involves some calculations, which I'll take you through in the next slides. Now, what is net present value? It is the difference between the money that is invested today and the present value of future returns on the investment. So if the net present value is positive, the investment is acceptable, it will pass the test. If the NPV is negative, so there are less chances of the investment being made in the project. Now, you have to bear in mind that to convert future values into present values, we have to use a discounting rate. And that discounting rate can vary. It could be the rate of inflation in the country, it could be hurdle rate of the investor, it could be rate of interest in the country, or it could be a rate on a project of comparable risk. So to understand the concept clearly, let's take an example. And the example is that an investor is considering investment of dirham 100,000 in a project, and the returns will accrue over a 5-year period, and the returns for each of the 5 year are estimated to be dirham 28,000, and the discounting rate that is assumed in this example is 10%. And what is required is computation of net present value of this project. So now we have to learn how the present value factors are calculated for each year that the returns will accrue on the investment. It's a very simple formula. It's given there, and the calculation is shown here, which is again very simple calculation. But we have calculated a factor for each year. Like for year 1, it is 0.909, year 2 factor, year 3, year 4, and year 5. We'll use these factors to convert the future values into present value for each year. So now we got a tabulation here which shows the years, the investment, the returns on the investment for each year, which is 28,000 dirham for the 5 years, and the discounting rate 10%, and the discounting factors. And we got the last column, that is net present value computation, which shows the investment 100,000 dirham, and then the discounted cash flows for each year, and the net of the investment and the cash flow is 6,120 dirham, and it's a positive cash flow. That means the returns are more than the investment. So it's a good thing that the project is returning a positive value after these calculations. So this is the calculation that investors are always interested to find out as to what will be the returns on their investment, and then the returns discounted using a certain discount rate to find out what is the net present value. So if the project has a positive return or NPV, the investment is likely to succeed the test. And if the net present value is a negative figure, that means the returns are less than the investment, then the, the, the project or the investment is likely to be put off. That is the concept of net present value. So in this case, as you can see, that the net present value is dirham 6,120, and it's a positive figure. Therefore, we can say that this investment is feasible as per the NPV test.